as I was getting ready for today's lesson, I thought it would be important to explain what an abolitionist is, because we're going to start to learn about abolitionists. Um, and then I figured I should break apart the word abolitionist, okay? And I was doing it and forgot how much I loved pulling the words apart when we were in school, and you guys would put them together and make new words. So let's take the word abolitionist apart, okay? So we have ist at the end, which means a person who. So abolitionist is a person who's involved in abolition. Okay, let's break it apart some more. Shun is the action of, so this is the action of aboli. What's aboli? Well, aboli comes, it's shortened version of the word abolition, or abolish, I'm sorry, it comes from the word abolish, okay? So abolition comes from the word abolish. So abolish means to get rid of. So if you want to abolish something, you want to get rid of it. Abolition is the act of getting rid of something. An abolitionist is a person who's in the act of getting rid of something. Okay, so there's our word for the day. So an abolitionist would be somebody who was involved in trying to get rid of slavery. Okay, and there are many ways that people tried to do this, or there's many things going on with slavery at the country at this time. There were people who did not want the expansion of slavery. So there were people who did not want slavery moving into new states and new territories. That didn't necessarily mean because they wanted to set the slaves free or because they didn't agree with slavery, but they didn't want slaveholders to go into new places and basically take over and make all the money and not leave other people the ability to go in and work on the land. Then you have abolitionists, people who want to get rid of slavery, and some were more forceful than others. So at this time in our history, you have a rise of abolitionist movements. You have abolitionist groups of people who work together, who have meetings, and you have abolitionist newspapers. One of the most famous newspapers is by William Lloyd Garrison in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to Massachusetts. We like to be troublemakers up here. So, but just because people were in the North didn't necessarily mean that they agreed with getting rid of slavery just because they didn't want it in their states. So even though abolitionists worked to get rid of slavery, and a lot of them came from states where there weren't slaves, they still faced a lot of problems from people even in their own states in the North who their mobs would go and break windows, set fire to things, try to destroy the printing presses of abolitionists in the North who were trying to spread the word that we should get rid of slavery. And obviously, if it made some of the people in the North angry, you can imagine how angry it made a lot of the people in the South. But there were abolitionists in the South as well. A very famous Angelina Grimke was the daughter of a wealthy plantation owner, and she tried to talk her family into the same idea that she had, that slavery was bad. They didn't buy it. She ended up leaving and moving with her sister who had moved to the North, and she goes around and she speaks against slavery, which during that time is not just controversial because she's talking about slavery, but also because she's a woman speaking in public. So a lot of people didn't like that either. So she had a kind of double whammy there. Not all abolitionists were white, okay? Obviously, slaves wanted to be free. Some of them got free. And some of them, when they were free, they worked to help free others, either physically by going back to the South and helping other slaves escape, like Harriet Tubman, or maybe speaking to crowds and sharing what it was like for them in slavery, and trying to convince people to get rid of slavery, like Frederick Douglass. And then also, there were slaves in the South who did try to rise up and fight against their masters. And there were many rebellions that were very scary to the people living in the South because they realized that there were so many slaves, and if those slaves really did band together and rise up, it would be a huge problem. And so to stop that, they kept making stricter and stricter laws and rules and harsher punishments and things like that to keep slaves from fighting back. Today, you're going to learn about some of these different type of people. Some of them white who worked against slavery, some of them black who worked against slavery, some of them who worked to free slaves, and some slaves who tried to revolt and fight against their masters and free themselves.